Has the UK gone too far when it comes to sentencing people over Facebook posts and the like with regard to these riots? That's the big question, and it's a nuanced question, and it's not just about the punishments themselves. I think it's about reputational management for the government, because this is, after all, a new government, and it's just come in, and this has been essentially dumped upon it to deal with, and it's had to respond. But has it gone too far? Now, to me, that's a multifaceted question, because we have to think about what a punishment is supposed to do in the first place. It's obviously supposed to punish the person that has done something wrong. Hence, there's actually a saying on the courts of justice that says, punish the wrongdoer. So yes, on the one hand, it has to punish the wrongdoer, but it's also a deterrent to other people not to do the same things. But is the deterrent of sending somebody to prison for 20 months or whatever for a Facebook post, even if that has been calling for violence and all of that sort of stuff, is that excessive? Well, I've put a poll out on this today on my main channel, because we're here on Black Belt Secrets, so do subscribe if you want my personal views on these things, and I'll give you my personal views on these things. And so, are these punishments too severe? Well, as I said, it's a multifaceted question, and I think there's two things really to address. First of all, is it proportionate to the person and what they've done in the circumstances and everything about their history? For example, some of them have a long list of previous convictions and some of them don't. And in the grand scheme of things, with all civil unrest and rioting, and obviously the government and the courts and the judges want to deter any further civil unrest. Now, ordinarily, that would pose for a more serious punishment. But when it comes to the individuals involved, we've seen individuals with a clean history been getting fairly serious custodial sentences. And I think that is a little bit over the top. Now, to take one such example, there was that one carer that was described in the news as having lived a very quiet and sheltered life all of her life. She did put, now let's be clear, there was an awful post that she put. I think they were trying to repair a mosque, and she wrote something like, it's ridiculous, and then, worse, they should go and do something to it. So make no mistake, that is awful. She shouldn't have posted that. But lots of people have said, does that really warrant a prison sentence of 15 months? Not suspended, an actual prison sentence of 15 months. So she went straight to prison for 15 months. Now, obviously, that is going to be a strong deterrent to her. It's going to be a strong deterrent to everybody else. So in that sense, it's going to do what it was intended to do. It's going to be a deterrent to everybody else. It's going to be a deterrent to her. It's going to punish her. But 15 months for a post that, when we look at the post itself, now, I'm not the judge, so I'm not criticizing the judge here. The judge had all of the facts, all of the case, all of the history, all of the context, everything else. Now, just jumping out to give a bit more context here, looking at the news article on this, her post said that they should not protect the buildings, they should blow them up with the people in it. Now, of course, that on the face of it is conveying a message that she shouldn't have put. And she later said that she'd said it in anger. She said other people were saying it. And the judge sentencing said, you should have been looking at the news and the media with horror like every right-minded person. And instead, you chose to take part in stirring up the hatred, which, of course, that is right. Judge said you were part of a Facebook account which had over 5,000 members, which is a big audience. You threatened the building, wherever it was, and it was a truly terrible threat. Now, the question as to whether she really meant it or not is entirely a separate question. When it comes down to actually whether she really meant it, it's probably not. But the fact is she conveyed that message, and that's what she pleaded guilty to. She pleaded guilty to conveying a message which carried with it that threat
and was obviously inflammatory, etc. Nonetheless, the judge said so-called keyboard warriors like you must learn to take responsibility for your disgusting and inflammatory language. Although she said through counsel that she said she accepts it was stupid. It was a single comment on a single day and otherwise leads a quiet, sheltered life, etc. So she got caught up in it with the anger, with everything that's going on. And that then leads to a question as to what was really driving this anger. Where was it all really coming from? I think that is a subject for another video. So subscribe and hit the notification bell for that, because that is another video entirely. But let's get back to my views.
At this, although yes, I am a barrister, but I'm looking at this mostly as a citizen here, as someone that lives in this system and giving my personal views. That's what you're here for on Black Belt Secrets. Back here. And I look at this as, in the round, is that really going to achieve what they want in proportion to this lady, her history, what her previous history was, what she did, what she wrote? Now, I'm sure she will agree. In fact, she did agree. She had pleaded guilty, that it was wrong, that she shouldn't have done that. And she doesn't dispute that it was wrong. Maybe if she had a suspended sentence, then she would have taken it seriously as well. But the message is clear. You write these posts, you go to prison. And so it is the strongest of deterrents. People are doubtless fearful of what they post. And this is where it comes to me for the proportionality. I've had lots of emails, and this is the reason for this video. I've had lots of emails now. Even someone emailing me asking to pay me for formal advice in a hypothetical future situation, which I can't advise, because I can only advise on facts, what either has happened and how the law applies to it, or what the law is, how the law applies to something that has happened, or a set of facts. I can't say, well, you could go and say this, that'll be fine, or something like this, that'll be fine. If it was specific wording, yes, I suppose, but not so hypothetically that it's a blanket advice on what someone is allowed to do. Now, when we take that scenario, people are asking me for advice on what they're allowed to say on Facebook or X. That is the state of things at the moment. And people are genuinely fearful of writing anything on social media. And to me, that feels like the proportionality is skewed and it's gone too far. The second question really is one of reputation, because this government now has a significant task of rebuilding a positive reputation. And whether you like Labour, whether you like Conservative, doesn't matter really. It is better if you like the government that is in power because they're in power. So it'd be better that they do things that you approve of because they're in power. Now, some people are never going to agree with that. Some people are never going to like the government that's in power. That's just how it is. But one way or the other, they have to look at reputation management and dealing with their reputation. And I just don't see how this has really helped. What they've done is, on the one hand, I've heard some murmurings that they've actually taken action, they've actually dealt with something, they've actually taken a stamp against this civil unrest and made it work. But the vast majority, and I'll be interested, I'll put the results of the poll on screen because that will be done by the time I've filmed and edited this video. But, and I'm guessing, I'll make a prediction. I haven't looked at the results, obviously, because I've just posted it before I came to the park. I'm going to guess that close to 20,000 people vote on it, and I'm going to say probably 85% or thereabouts are going to say that they've gone too far with the sentencing. But as I say, I'll be interested to see what that is. If it isn't that many votes by the time I publish this video, check back on it, and I bet I'm not far off. Because I think the vast majority of people think that it's gone too far, because it's going into the realms of censorship of freedom of speech? What do we have the right to say? Courts have said before that the freedom of expression that doesn't include offending somebody is not a freedom or a right worth having. And so just because someone's offended by something doesn't mean that's a prohibited speech. Now, as I've said in previous videos, which I've taken some flack for, but I'll tell you as it is, in previous videos I've said the reason for all of this is because it was to do with civil unrest, aka riots. I think we had the first youth that was charged with rioting just not long ago. Let me show you the floof as well. We had the first youth charged with rioting. And it's a big deal because it's a severe offence with a severe punishment, and it's going to have a devastating effect on everyone's life that is punished for that. And this is not in any way to detract from the criminality. These things are criminal. They shouldn't be doing those things. And make no mistake, people shouldn't write those posts. They shouldn't write posts saying that they should go and burn places down or blow places up or that sort of stuff. On the other hand, there is the genuine discussion of government policy. And people have said, well, how can I criticize government policy then? Well, in the broad round of things, that hasn't changed. Your right to talk about those things hasn't changed. Because if you want to criticize government policy, you are free to do so. But in the context of these riots and civil unrest, it should not be done in a way that is encouraging racial hatred, encouraging or inciting violence, or certainly should not be inciting direct threats and direct action against people or places. That is what is really going to get you into trouble. If you wrote a post along the lines of, and I won't be held to be responsible for any advice on this here, but if you wrote a post along the lines of, I disagree with the government's stance on migration, I think the government should stop all boats and things like that, then that should ordinarily be okay. Hey. Ordinarily, if you wrote something like, I think the government's policy on migration is wrong and they should be not allowing these boats in and they should change the policy and things like that, ordinarily that should be okay. But at the moment, I'm not so sure it is, which is why I think it's a little bit too far, because it has left people unsure as to what to say. And so I would be compelled if someone had written that and I were asked to advise on it, I'd be compelled to say, well, keep that to yourself at the moment, because I think that would be the best advice, because there is a risk that it will be taken in the context of this civil unrest. And I think that's wrong, because I think that is an erosion of the freedom of expression. I think that is taking away your right. But that's my view on it. I think it's over the top, and I think it is infringing on rights. So you came here for my independent views. Those are what they are. They are not intended to upset anybody. And I hope that's obvious, but it's not intended to upset anybody. It's not intended to certainly make anybody act upon what I've said, legally or otherwise. But I think it is, I think what's happened, I think the sentences that are being handed down, some of them I think are probably justified given the history of the people involved and the severity of the comments and the direct link in the ones that I've seen with what has happened. I think there probably is sufficient cause to say that they're directly linked with the acts of violence and therefore possibly is justified. But as for this one example, again, I'm not detracting from the seniority of the judge here. This one example of the carer who had otherwise had a quiet life to herself, wrote a stupid thing that she shouldn't have said, which was obviously wrong and she shouldn't have said it, but realized it was wrong, apologized for it, I believe, She certainly pleaded guilty to it. I think in her case, in cases like hers, she could probably have had a suspended sentence. But I'm not a judge, and I certainly was not the judge on that case. So in that case, obviously I can't supersede what the judge said. It's the judge's call, and that's what happened. But either way, you came here for my independent views, my opinions, and that's all they are, is opinions. So if you want more of those, which you don't get on Black Belt Barrister, please do subscribe, like the video, ring the notification bell, you'll get updates of further videos. And if you like seeing the floof run around, she has her own channel too. Because I don't know if you know, if you've watched, but she has a severe allergy for which she's on medication, which is about £6 a tablet, one a day. And they are hoping that it sticks at one a day. Sometimes it doesn't seem enough, but work it out, that gets quite expensive. And I'm hoping that by setting up her channel, she can earn her keep. She can generate some AdSense and pay for her medicine. On a serious note, it's precarious to say the least. Go check her out, Black Belt Floof, her channel. I'll link it in the description below. And thank you for watching. Thank you for walking with me in the park and the floof. Let me know what you think of my opinions. Do you think I'm right? Do you think I'm not looking at the full facts? I'm happy to be pointed and corrected to something I didn't anticipate or didn't appreciate. But overall, I just enjoy, mostly I enjoy walking and talking. Funny story, teachers of mine always telling me to be quiet in class. So I saw a X post the other week, said, those people that were told to be quiet in class, what do you do now? And I said, I'm a barrister, I'm literally paid to talk. So here I am. So I hope you enjoyed my views. Please do subscribe. I'll see you next time.